Beauty standards from around the world that you probably didn't know about. Women from the Mercy tribe in Ethiopia remove their 4 lower front teeth and cut a hole in their bottom lip. Then they put in a plug to stretch their lips, until they can insert a full-sized lip plate. This can take many months to do, but the lip plates are symbols of beauty and identity, and they're often worn by unmarried women in hopes of seeming more feminine and finding a rich husband. These plates are changed regularly and each time increasing in size, and this tradition has existed for over 10,000 years. Follow if you want to see more.
And sing this little song. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Run, run, run.
The most disgusting things actors had to do for a role. Do you guys remember this scene in Harry Potter when all the kids gathered for a feast with all this delicious food? Well, every time they filmed the scene, they couldn't replace the food, so it started to rot and smell terrible. And the actors said it got so bad they could smell the stench before even walking on set. In Game of Thrones, Castle Black looked super disgusting on screen and was just as disgusting in real life. The set decorators hung raw meat from the ceilings, had real pigs wandering around, and didn't clean up for weeks at a time, which made the actors have an easy time pretending to be miserable and cold because it actually was. For The Hunger Games, Jennifer Lawrence took acting to the extreme and actually ate a raw fish in order to get into the skin of her character. She said the crew told her it would taste like sushi, hint, it did not. She said it tasted as bad as it smells and that she's never doing that again.
Let's see if you have thalassophobia, part 3. I'm going to show you 5 photos. If you feel too uncomfortable to make it to the 5th photo, then you could have thalassophobia. Number 1. How about this? Feeling uncomfortable yet? Nearly there. Last one. Hit follow to see if you can make it through the next phobia test.
Crazy facts about your memory you won't believe. Your brain's storage capacity is around 2.5 million gigabytes. Smell is the sense most closely linked to memory. Your short-term memory can only handle about 7 thoughts at once. You forget 50% of new information within an hour. And this fact really annoyed me, so I tried to come up with a solution and stumbled across Plord. It's an AI-based device that can transcribe any audio recording to text in seconds. Luckily it's simple, so when I need to remember something, I just start with the one-press voice recording on the Plord device. And once complete, I just click transcribe. And boom, it's done. I have the whole transcription ready for use and it's perfect. Or I can just select to create a summary and choose the style I'm looking for. For example, to find the most important points in a long meeting or create an audio report of that file. So I'm never going to forget something important ever again as long as I have this device with me. You can get it too, link in bio.
This is the Devil's Castle, and it's one of the scariest places on Earth. It's located in a small town in Mexico. Its actual name is Castillo del Diablo, and it was built by a painting contractor named Tony Wells. He spent almost $4 million on the castle, and it's become a worldwide attraction. In the castle, you can find coffins, creepy mannequins, and gargoyles. Wells has a collection of over 800 swords and knives, and about 350 beautiful antique mirrors. Often, Satan worshippers leave him presents, even though Tony does not believe in Satan. Would you dare spend a night in this place?
Crazy things happening in the world right now. New York City is now giving rats birth control to stop them from reproducing. This restaurant sued this customer for leaving a $3,000 tip for his waitress. Pablo Escobar's abandoned hippos are still causing problems in the Colombian jungle. A motel in Kentucky was ordered to pay $2 million after one of their guests passed away in a 150-degree shower. Karen was the most popular baby name 60 years ago, and now it is nearly extinct. Florida police are telling people to stop taking selfies with a depressed black bear. EasyJet is apologizing after leaving 3 passengers with disabilities on the runway. A Japanese political candidate was stripping on national TV and asking viewers if they thought she was sexy. A game developer was demanding naked sauna sessions with his employees. 5 fishermen in Sri Lanka passed away after drinking water from a bottle they found in the ocean.
These are the scariest serial killers from each state, part 1. Up first is Nanny Doss from Alabama, also known as the Giggling Granny. She married 5 times and murdered 4 of her husbands, and the only one that survived was her first husband. She also poisoned 11 of her family members. Her first 2 victims were her children, who allegedly died from food poisoning. She got the nickname the Giggling Granny because she would always laugh at the crimes she committed. She killed 11 people and is definitely the scariest serial killer from Alabama.
This is the world's first passenger plane that doesn't have a pilot because it's being flown by AI. What could go wrong? The concept was revealed at the National Business Aviation Association event in Orlando, Florida, and the idea is to create a fully autonomous passenger jet that has similar benefits to self-driving cars. They believe AI could reduce human error, which is the leading cause of accidents, making air travel safer than ever. Because there would be no need for pilots, it could reduce costs, it could improve efficiency and reduce delays because planes could fly 24/7 without needing to rest for crew. And more personalized, on-demand flight options could emerge, like Uber for the skies. But then again, you would have to put your complete trust in AI 40,000 feet in the sky. So the question is, should this be made or scrapped immediately?
Here are 3 optical illusions which I guarantee will make your brain hurt. First one, make that your phone background, I dare you. Wait, I've got another one for you. Second one, that makes me feel a bit sick. Let's see the last one. Now go and give your eyes a rest.
This woman did you-know-what with 919 men in one single day. Lisa Sparks set this record back in 2004 at the annual World Championships in Poland. She was competing against 2 other women, one of which was the current record holder who did you-know-what with 759 people in one day. But the craziest part is Lisa set this record in only 12 hours, meaning she only spent 45 seconds with each man.
Interesting people you've never heard of. This man from Australia survived a wildfire by scuba diving in his pool while the wildfire was burning all around him. This man in his 40s fathered somewhere between 550 to 600 children. Because of this, he was court ordered to stop donating his sperm. This man has fathered over 100 kids but has not been paid for it and even pays child support for some of them. A man in Louisiana who was pulled over by a police officer for drunkenly riding on a horse gave the excuse that the horse knows the way home. The sheriff ended up not giving him a DUI. This Englishman bought this island 60 years ago, moved to it, and never returned. This is what he looks like now after planting over 16,000 trees, attracting a bunch of different species of animals, and even making it a national park. This guy holds the world record for reciting pi to 22,514 digits in just under 5 hours, and he knows 11 languages.
This is the scariest water slide in the whole world. This is known as the Leap of Faith. It's one of the most beautiful constructed slides in the entire world. But despite its beauty, it's actually known to be one of the most dangerous water slides. This slide consists of a 60-foot drop and was created back in 1998. But if that's not scary enough, it actually gets crazier. After the 60-foot drop, the riders are then sent through a lagoon of sharks. They're kept inside of the tube while the sharks are swimming around them.
He was 2 years old when he survived 4th-degree burns.
The candle fell. The fire spread quick and then into a blanket. And then it'll caught on fire.
Zaid Garcia was only a toddler when his mother put him to bed and a candle fell on his blankets, causing his entire bed to set on fire. He was rushed from Mexico to San Antonio for treatment, where he had multiple surgeries, and doctors thought that he wasn't going to make it. But he did. 80% of Zaid's body was burnt, and he lost both of his hands and 5 toes. His eyes were also severely burnt, so doctors covered his eyes with his skin so it can help them heal. Zaid said that he's able to only see shadows and light, but hopes to regain his vision one day and remove the skin from his eyes. He's now 19 years old, and his story is a miracle since most people don't survive third-degree burns. But what shocks me the most is despite everything Zaid has been through, he's still so positive and optimistic.
When you share your story with somebody, how do you hope they react?
Well, I know it'll make them sad, but I hope that it gets to their heart, and I hope it gives them hope and faith on themselves too. I know they might feel bad for me and everything, but I would like they think, well, if he did it, I could do it too.
Her life was taken by her roommate while she was on a call asking for help. This is Carla Antonia Sanchez, and she was living in Santiago, Chile with her family. She was described as hardworking, cheerful, kind, and was studying at the Culinary Professional Institute. Carla was very passionate with every dish she would make, and her plan was to get a working holiday visa so she could complete her training in Vienna. She applied for her visa, but unfortunately there was no spots left. Carla was determined to do this, so she would check the website every single day, and fortunately a spot opened. In November of 2023, Carla packed her bags and headed to Vienna. Her family felt relatively at ease because she knew people in the area and had a place to stay. The first few weeks in Vienna were tough for Carla because she was struggling to find a job. In the meantime, Carla was working at restaurants that would pay her very little, but eventually she found a job at a restaurant that she states changed her life. Carla's mom states that Carla would take different shifts and she would often stay longer than she was supposed to, and when her mom asked her why she just wouldn't go home and go to sleep, she stated that the environment was so good that she just loved being there. Carla and her mom would video call or talk on the phone every single day, and one of her mother's concerns was her staying up very late, and Carla just told her, don't worry, Vienna is different, it's super safe here. While Carla was living in Vienna, she had a roommate, and that was 26-year-old Eduard from Romania. He never really interacted with her, and since she was always working, he was always working, they never really saw each other. However, a month after moving in, Carla started to feel a bit uncomfortable with Eduard. She told her mom that she didn't like him because he was dirty, and she didn't want to confront him about it because she didn't want to start any kind of problems. She felt like there was something else that she didn't like about him, but she just couldn't figure it out. On the night of June 11th, Carla had texted a few of her coworkers that she was scared because her roommate had made his way into her room. Carla was on a video call with her coworkers when Eduard entered the room and attacked her with an axe. Those coworkers called the police. They rushed over to Carla's apartment, and when they got there, they saw Eduard outside with the axe, and he was shirtless. When Eduard saw the police officers arriving, he rushed towards them to attack them with the axe, and they shot him, and he died at the scene. The officers went up to Carla's apartment, and they found her on the floor, lifeless, with multiple head injuries. On June 26, Carla's ashes were sent back to Chile, where her loved ones could say their final goodbyes.
Deadliest computer viruses in the world, part 3. This is the infamous no escape virus, and you'll see exactly why it's called that. So we're gonna open it up here and then click run, and then run again. Allow this publisher to make changes, yes. This malware is no joke. Continue? Hell yeah. Alright, now let me show you what happens. First thing, the computer restarts itself. A classic virus move. It boots back up and we have stage 1. Background and theme change to this red looking vibe. Stage 2, Windows loads with a bunch of spam user accounts, all with a bunch of weird characters and each password protected. And the main admin account is called no escape. At this point, most keys on your keyboard would be disabled. Stage 3, admin password is set to death, all lowercase, so we punch that in to log on. Stage 4, all files on your computer are deleted and your desktop is filled with these junk files, all with those same strange characters. Stage 5, your mouse buttons are swapped, so left click is right and right is left. If you open up any of these files in Notepad, it just says this: your computer is mine, you cannot get rid of this malware. Stage 6, you can't really do anything with your computer anymore, and on September 18th, it will delete the Windows bootloader, meaning that you can't even turn it on. So yeah, let me know if you're interested in trying this out, and I'll send you that download link.
will not believe how this woman stalker found her. In 2019, police in Tokyo arrested a 26-year-old man by the name of Fubiki Sato, who was suspected of following home a young female pop star and whom he later moved on to assault and molest as she was walking into her apartment complex. But how did he find out exactly where she was? Well, that's the scary part. It was said that Sato screenshotted one of the girl's social media posts in which he zoomed into her eyes, and in her eyes you could see the reflection of a very famous landmark, and that's how he found her location. He then proceeded to use Google Street View, where he would find the exact coordinates of the landmark that was reflected in the girl's eye. This is when he would move on to this location and commit the horrific acts on this young woman. And so guys, this is why it's very important to be careful about what you post on social media, because he found her through a reflection in her eyes. Who's to say it couldn't happen to you?
Top 4 most horrifying places in the ocean. 1. Hot Tub of Despair, Gulf of Mexico. This is 3,300 feet below the surface of the ocean. It is a very real, very deadly version of Goo Lagoon, where it killed Mr. Krabs and most of the fish in that show as well, because this is a really toxic mix of super salty water, methane, and hydrogen sulfide that basically kills any sort of organism that goes near it. 2 is Sirena Deep. This is the 3rd deepest part of our ocean. It's absolutely horrifying for a lot of reasons. First of all, we have no clue what lives down there, but basically it looks something like this, completely dark and devoid of life with crushing pressure and freezing cold water, and it's really scary and empty and dark. 3. The East Siberian Sea. It's basically filled with ticking time bombs of giant methane pockets that may or may not explode in the near future because of global warming, the fact they're under a bunch of ice, and when they do explode, it'll release a lot of damaging chemicals, and it also will make the water around them boil and probably kill anything that's in that water with it. 4. The Ring of Fire, or the outline of the entire Pacific Ocean. This is a very large area of seismic and volcanic activity. Among other things, this is also where the largest mountains and volcanoes are on our planet, which is kind of horrifying.
This woman shocked everyone at this carnival game because in order to win, you have to hang on to the bar for 2 minutes, which doesn't seem like a long time. But if you've ever tried this, you'll understand just how difficult this simple task is. But what the employees didn't know is that she's actually a rock climber, so this wouldn't even be a challenge for her. And as the time winded down, with no signs of struggle to be seen, she eventually got down to the final seconds, now with the small crowd forming in order to witness what would happen. And just watch what she does when the timer ends. Do you think you could beat this game?
Whatever it was that really happened in the Hotel President was one of the most disturbing mysteries in American history. This is January 2nd, 1935, when the Hotel President in Kansas City, Missouri got a very strange visitor. This very unusual young man who checked in under the name Roland T. Owen. He was eventually going to be placed in room 1046, and over a period of days, the maid staff just kind of routinely entered the room because it was always dark in there, so they assumed nobody was in there. Every time they walked in, what they would actually find was Roland T. Owen sitting on the bed in a suit in complete darkness, doing nothing. The most disturbing of all was really what took place on January 4th. Hotel staff had entered the room because of a disconnected phone line, and when they got in there, Roland T. Owen was found on the ground, covered in blood, and he had been stabbed multiple times. Just before he died, they asked him, who did this to you? Which he just said, no one. Even more bizarre, an anonymous caller who was allegedly a woman called in and paid for his entire funeral. If you do want more to the story, I would go check it out right on the show.
Breaking news, Bella Brave has been put into a medically induced coma and they do not believe she is going to make it. Many of you may recognize her from being a star on this app. You may also know her as Bella Brave. Now, as of July 10th, her mother has posted that she has been medically induced in a coma. She said, quote, "They've told us they don't know if she'll survive this. I know she will. I know she has an army praying for her." Her mother shared that Bella had developed an infection in her lungs and also may have developed a form of bronchitis. Doctors say the type of bronchitis that she developed is, quote, "irreversible and a chronic condition." It is also known as popcorn lung. On July 9th, her mother posted that although Bella was, quote, "sitting up," she began to struggle. She went on to say, quote, "She lost 4 pounds in one day, putting all her energy into breathing. Her CO2 started to increase and she started to doze off and have delirium. She was alert enough to tell me she turned into a piece of bread, and she also knew that she was at the sick kids hospital in Toronto. She continued by saying they knew at that point they needed to sedate her and intubate her before she crashed. We left having them tell us they didn't know if she'll make it through the night, but she did. However, the following day, her mother said that she was placed into a medically induced coma. The best of the best were telling us it looked really bad. But I kept lifted stare intensely listening until I heard what hope there was left that we could hang on to. She has also shared that Bella was put on a large dose of steroids. She said this is the one option they have left to help her lungs work again. Day 3 will give us more information on how soon we could see her lung function improve. She's stable, and that in itself is an improvement for now. To stay up to date on this case, make sure you click the playlist below. Prayers for Bella, and I'll keep you guys updated. What do you guys think? Drop in the comments.
Scary Christmas Urban Legends, Part 1. Hopefully you're not eating right now, because this one's gonna make you lose your appetite. So this is mincemeat pie. Apparently people actually like this and like to eat it during Christmas time. Legend goes that it was created in the 16th century as a way for humans to cook and eat other humans. You heard me correctly, humans were added to this dish. And apparently this rumor or legend is why mincemeat pies no longer have meat in them. At least most don't anymore. Mmm, delicious. Like and follow for more weird shit like this.
Maps that will change the way you see the world. This is a prediction of what the world is going to look like 250 million years from now. These are the CO2 emissions across the Indian subcontinent, with the lightest, whitest areas being the highest. This map shows all of the foreign military presence that is sitting in Africa right now. This map shows the most valuable Italian brands and where exactly they came from. If you draw a straight line between the northernmost point and southernmost point in the contiguous United States, along with the westernmost point to the easternmost point, the lines do not intersect. This map shows what the size of the Great Lakes would look like if it was in Europe. This map shows which state you can find the highest percentage of people with ancestry from every European country. This map shows where every popular sitcom took place. Every red dot on this map is a football pitch or a soccer field if you're from the United States. This map shows that in 1990, most of the United States had 15% or less obese adults in their state, where less than 30 years later, now almost every state has more than 25% obesity rates.
We now know more about how a suspect has finally been named in the disappearance of Morgan Nick. If you've been following, you know Morgan was abducted from the Alma Little League Park within a 2 to 3 minute window. She was a bit shy compared to the other kids, and so she'd just been sitting with her mom along the first baseline to watch the game. But apparently she was so excited when 2 kids came over and asked her if she wanted to go catch fireflies. She repeatedly asked her mom, and so Colleen gave in even though it was getting dark. But she had no idea Billy Jack Lynx was also there and allegedly parked right next to their car. Horribly, she says that when she saw her daughter for the last time, she was running up this hill and past the fences to that exact same parking area. Now, when the game ended that night around 10:30, all of the other kids came running back down to the field, but Morgan wasn't with them. Immediately, Colleen asked them where she had gone off to, and they told her that she had just sat down for a second to get the sand out of her shoes. So Colleen went up there and started looking around, but she couldn't find her anywhere. By 11 p.m. that night, everyone was searching the ballpark, and eventually officers decided to take the area off as a crime scene. It turns out the kids who were with Morgan that night had seen something worth mentioning. There was a man with a scruffy beard who had come up to them, and they couldn't quite place it, but something about him and his red truck just didn't fit. Now with this, police asked everyone to send in their home footage from the games that night, and they found a truck that matched the one the kids were talking about. Nothing immediately came from this new lead, but then about 2 months later, there was another attempted abduction. It was determined that Billy Jack Lynx had tried to take an 11-year-old girl from a local Sonic, and he was driving what appeared to be the exact same truck. Now that same year, 95, the connection here was made, and Lynx was interviewed about Morgan's disappearance. His car was also sent out for testing, and they even found human blood, but from what I can tell, all of the initial evidence in this case was lost. Then in 2019, a new team finally came in to take over this case, and it was so disappointing because they could have had the technology now to match that blood to Morgan. So they started over trying to track down this truck 25 years later, and somehow after several different owners, they have found it. In 2020, investigators, quote, vacuumed various locations of the truck, and now they say they have a blonde hair that has to match Morgan or someone in her family. And they also say this strongly suggests that Morgan was in Billy's vehicle the night she disappeared, and while he died in 2000, they also have an idea of where he took her after the abduction. They focused in on an area about 10 minutes away that's down by the river, and where a group of kids actually saw his truck later that night, and what appeared to be a man holding someone down in the front seat. Tragically, it is believed that Morgan may have been taken with the floodwater that year, and today she still remains missing. Investigators are trying to figure out everything they can about Billy's life, likely to see if he has any more victims.